Hello. We're going to talk about ways that you can make your videos and your live streams a little bit more polished, professional, kind of take things up to the next level over the next couple of weeks. So tonight we're going to start with using lower thirds, what they are, how you use them, what they're used for, that type of thing. So hopefully you are ready to rock and roll. I'm going to run the intro and we'll jump in and get started. And I realized I should stop the music. There we go. So, hello. For those of you who are new here, my name is Kathleen, and I'm here as your tech coach. Tonight we're going to talk about how adding lower thirds to your videos, whether, recorded videos or live videos, also known as live streams, whichever way you choose to do it. Sorry, the dog is making some extra noise. Hang on. Just bring that down a little so it doesn't blow out anybody's ears who's using headphones. And so we're going to talk about how using those lower thirds can kind of take your streams to the next level, give you another way of providing information to your audience, and how and why you should use them. So we're going to drive right into this. Let me know if the dog's noises are too annoying. Personally, I think he's adorable, but I know not everybody agrees with that assessment, which is fine. All right, let's take that down. So we're going to start off with the basics, right? Because I'd like to not assume, right? Let's get everybody up to the same level, because this actually goes by different names. So there may be people out there who know it by a different name. So lower thirds are also known as, let me get this right, chirons. I always had to think about it. Some people also call them lower thirds with the number instead of the word. Some people call them titles or lower titles. However you refer to them, this basically is what we're talking about. Not the box below here. Let me do it this way. Okay, so where it says my name and your tech coach, that's a lower third, right? That's a fairly traditional looking lower third. The reason it's called that is because it's supposed to be the lower third of the video screen, right? Whatever your camera shot is. And it's providing extra information. Now, I could just bring that up without having said my name and you would get it. Now, just to talk about the difference here, right? So this is a lower third. This is not, okay? This is, for lack of a better term, that this would be captioning, or some people call it closed captioning. It's technically not closed captioning because it's always there. Closed captioning means you can turn it on and off. So just to make that distinction, right? So this is taking everything that I say and putting it up on the screen to help people who maybe are having trouble hearing me or in an environment where they can't hear. Whereas, let me bring that back. The lower third is something that I choose to put up at certain times, or if I had a producer, I would have the producer put up at certain times to provide additional information. So now that we've got that hopefully cleared up for you, let's just take a couple of seconds to talk about what this is in the bigger picture. Okay, so most of you are aware of these, even if you didn't know that was the name for them. Let me take my lower third down. Because this is something that you have seen from day one, basically, on TV, right? So all of the decades of television that we watched, some point or other, you've seen a lower third of some point, right? So this is one that's got the title in it, okay? Down below, all the way down below, the one in the blue and white. You've seen these, breaking news on your newscast, during sporting events. They're used in a lot of different places. And at this point, we almost we expect them, right? It's one of those elements that to us says this is a professional broadcast. Well, guess what? When you add these to your broadcast, recorded video, live streams, whatever it is that you're doing, it also taps into that part of the human brain that says, hey, look, this is professionally done, right? This person, this company is adding the extra little touch, right? Taking the extra time to put these little extra pieces in place. Now, there's nothing wrong with talking head, right? If all you've got is your phone and you're doing that, that's fine. It's way more important to be doing your videos and going live than to worry about these other things if you can't do them yet. The point is that if you can, it does add a certain extra touch to what you're doing, and it makes it easier for people. So if I was to say to you, hey, if you've got ideas for the show, make sure you go over to yourtechcoach.net and let me know what you want me to cover on the next show. You may or may not have heard the URL, but by saying it and putting it on the screen, it's increased the odds that you've gotten it right, especially since, like, in my case, I could not get the .com because somebody else had it. So when I say yourtechcoach.net, it's really important for me to put it up so that visually people see that, oh, right, in my brain, I was thinking .com, but no, it's actually a .net that she has. Same thing for my Twitter handle, right? Let me bring that back up again. So my Twitter, I could not get your tech coach because somebody else had it. So mine is actually your_tech coach. So that's, again, important why to put it up there. But also because if, somebody happened to drop a book at the moment you were saying it, the dog barked, maybe somebody's just in an environment where they're having trouble hearing everything you're saying, or maybe you just talk a little fast for them. I'm sorry, I do try to slow down. But it just gives another way for you to communicate that information, make it easy for your audience to get that information that they may want to use, right? By putting that up here, I've now made it easier for people who do want to reach out and contact me, whether it's for assistance or if they've got ideas for the show or whatever. So that is one of the big reasons to use it. And like I said, also, there's just the added perk of the fact that, hey, all of a sudden, in everybody's brain, you're coming off a little bit more polished, a little bit more professional looking. Now, that's not to say that you still can't be casual, you still can't be you, because of course you can, and you absolutely should in your videos. This is just another way to provide information. So like I said, this is something that has been on regular TV forever, cable, for those of you who are not aware of just over-the-air stuff. So, they use it for static text. They use it for, key phrases. Sometimes it's an image that they put up there. Sometimes it's a crawl with, information. Generally a static text lower third, right? This is kind of already a long one. You see it's kind of fading off. You want to minimize the number of characters that you're using, but sometimes you need to provide more information. So I've got an example of something that crawls. Some people would say that, what is this one? I'm out of my routine because I'm trying to show you all the different stuff. But something like this, okay, some people would call this a crawl, some people would call it a lower third, some people see them as the same thing. It doesn't really matter. But because it had more information on it, and this is something I don't normally run during my shows, but I run it before my shows when I'm getting everything set up and giving everybody a chance to go and grab their favorite beverage and so on and so forth, to let them know that, yes, this is going to be live, it's going to start soon, here's the topic. So this has got a lot more text in it than you would see in a normal lower third, which is why the scroll is good. But again, you want to make sure that, it's a good size and that, is that we're going at a good speed. You don't want it to go flying by and feel like it's a test of some sort. Okay. Oh, hey, Susan. Hey, John. How you doing? All right. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about is that a lower third, when people talk about it, it sounds like it's a single thing, and it pretty much is, right? So again, I normally wouldn't be throwing all these up, but, it's a single thing, right? It's this block down here at the bottom. Hard to get my fingers here in the right place, but it's this piece here. But you actually can do different types of them, or, different tiers if you want. So a lot of people, when they first get started, do a 1 tier, which is basically just, their name. I don't have any of those anymore. I used to. That used to be what all of mine were. I've moved on to 2 tiers, right? So it's got, the first line, and then it's got a second line underneath it. It's probably a little easier to see it here, right? So it's got my name, right? And then it's got my title, your tech coach. So that's a 2 tier. And this is very often what you see for, if you're going to have like somebody's name and either, like their title or their location or something like that, because the prominent thing would be the name and then the other is extra information. You can even go to 3 tiers if you want to. Obviously, it's going to be either bigger, right? Or maybe you would do, something here and then maybe something down here if you wanted to do it as a 3 tier. But so you're not limited to too much. You just want to make sure that it doesn't get so big that it's covering up the entire screen, right? So you want to keep it somewhere down around here, providing enough information, but not too much, right? You don't want it to be a torrent of information. The other thing is that, so what I'm using right now is, see how like it slides in? That's called a transition. So that's called a dynamic lower third. It comes in and then it goes away with motion. Now you don't have to do that, right? You can just have it pop on and then drop away again. That's totally fine. It's just another element when you're adding that kind of transition thing. It does make it a little bit more visually interesting for your audience. But you want to make sure that you don't get too carried away with it, right? You don't want it to be like bouncing all over the screen before it settles down because you don't want it to become a distraction. So just as an example, like that one kind of borders on, but that way, that's my puppy. That's Mr. Murphy. So that particular one is a little bit of, I'll do it again. It's a little dramatic. I mean, it's not too bad because it doesn't get too carried away. But here, if I do, let me see, there's a couple other ones here. Let me do something that's a little bit more, here, like this. Okay, so like there's all kinds of different ways to do this. You just want to make sure that you're not getting too carried away. You don't want to use all the transitions, right? You want the conversation to stay focused on what it is you're talking about. But when you're providing other information, it doesn't hurt to add a little bit of spice to it, just to make it more interesting for people, right? Remember also too that when you're doing this, it is adding some extra framing to your presentation, which again, from a cognitive science point of view, also adds a little bit more polish to what you're doing. And you do want to make sure that you don't do too many of these. I've done a lot because I'm demonstrating. Normally I would not be bringing these all in so quickly. But when you're doing them, when you're using them, with a gentle hand, they become visually interesting for people. They provide additional information and they spice everything up for you. All right. So let's keep going. So what are they used for, right? We've already talked about some examples, but let's just get into this in a little bit more detail. Basically, your focus should be providing disruptive. Wow. I don't know why I'm going up with destructive. Disruptive way to add extra information to the screen for people. So again, like we're talking about, whether it's, identifying who's speaking or providing additional information about what they're talking about or being clear about, hey, go to my website, yourtechcoach.net, having it there in text also makes it easier for people to process it. What the whole focus should be to help your audience get the value that you are trying to provide, right? So they're a multi-purpose tool. You can use them for just about anything you can think of. Just make sure that it makes sense. Like for me, right, I'm not here talking sports. I certainly could, pitchers and catchers reported. So, I'm excited about that. Spring training is always a good time of year for me. But this is not the focus of my show. So if I suddenly all start putting the ball scores up and the latest trade rumors, that wouldn't really fit into the content I do. It might be fun for me, but it might be confusing for my audience. So that's why I would not do something like that. But if it is something that applies to the content that you're providing, then by all means, absolutely go ahead and do that. So you want to make sure that what you're doing and what you're providing isn't disrupting the flow of the content that you're doing. It's not completely off topic, unless that's the way you do your show, which is totally fine. But, if it makes sense, if you're doing a sports show, then go ahead and show the scores. If you are doing something, outdoors, maybe you want to have the location and the weather, that type of thing. If it's really super important to your content that people know the exact day and time that you did that particular video or live stream, you can go ahead and put that up there. If you're doing something, that's building towards something, you could absolutely include a countdown of some sort. Or, you could just use it to remind people of the topic. Right? Because people are coming in and out of any video or live stream over the time of the production of it. So it doesn't hurt to put that up there to remind folks. You can also use it to let them know about, maybe you want to let them know you've got a mailing list, but maybe you're not mentioning it. But you could have it come up while you're talking about your topic to let them know until you get to the point where you're going to maybe talk about that later on. So really you're not restricted at all by what you can put down there. As long as it makes sense and it provides some value to them, then that's really the main focus. So let me just run through. I've made a little list here of ways I've seen people use these successfully. You're not going to use all of these, but maybe a couple of these will trigger for you. So when you have a person on screen, very often people will put the person's name, their job title, and or location. A lot of people during their stream will put company information, right? The name of their company, the phone number, the mailing or street address, if you have like a storefront or whatever, URL, that type of thing. I have seen people use news tickers because it tied into their content. I've seen people show the time and the date, weather information. I've seen people show, tickers, scores, stock prices, that type of thing. I've seen them use countdowns, particularly working up towards some sort of launch or event. General updates. Maybe you're, going to be changing your showtime or whatever. You want to make sure everybody knows. So every so often you're bringing up a lower third to let them know that. And this is one that you might want to consider pretty much across the board, and that's what's next. It's actually something I should probably consider. So sometimes people, while they're in like one segment of their video or their live stream, at some point, maybe halfway or 3/4 of the way through, they'll hit the button or have their producer hit the button and bring up coming up in the next segment, we're going to be talking about this, as a way to keep people engaged, right? Keep them talking. And just keep them around for the rest of the show. So it is something else to consider. It's one of the things as I went through, I was like, I should probably think about that. So just think about it, see if you want to do. Okay. The other part of using your lower thirds is you want to make sure that you are getting the most benefit out of it. And so along that line, you want to make sure that you're using it, to identify your company. Be true to your branding. Your logos, your colors, that kind of thing. You can use it for promotion, cross promotion. If it helps, sometimes, maybe you can use it to provide a little bit of context or a backstory to whatever you're talking about or what you will be talking about in the stream. Clarification is a great use of it, giving them a little bit more information. I mean, if you think about it, they do that all the time in the news, right? When you're watching the news at 5, 6, 10 o'clock, whatever it is that you like to watch it on, and they go to the field, right? You get the reporter's name, you get their Twitter handle, where they're reporting from, maybe a little blurb about what it is they're reporting about, all that type of stuff. You can invite engagement with it, right? So, for example, you can ask people to like, follow, subscribe. I'm doing a lot of these tonight on purpose, right? But there's a way to do that. You can bring up questions for people to answer in chat. Again, you can have the dog make noises. Whatever it is, that feels right for your group. And of course, you can provide contact information. So, for example, I constantly remind people that you can go to the website and let me know if there's a topic you want me to cover on the show. Or if there is something that I've covered on a show that you'd like more information about, you can always reach out to me there too. So, right, it puts it all right there for them. Very easy for them to find. All right. Let's talk about some tips as far as using lower thirds, because hopefully this is sparking you to think about doing so. Okay, number one, even though this is generally what people think of when they say lower third, it does not have to be at the bottom, okay? If you want to put it on the top, go right ahead. If you want to put it on either side, go ahead. Maybe not in all the places, but you don't have to be restricted by where you put it. You do just want to be consistent about where you put it so that people know what to expect when they see something show up there. You definitely want to make sure that you are providing enough contrast between the text or image that you've got up and the background, whether that's a colored background like I happen to be using right now, or if you're just bringing it up on the screen, that's fine too. But keep in mind that, whatever is on screen may change, right? There's a big difference between this particular shot and this shot. So I would have to keep that in mind when I'm designing my lower thirds to make sure that it's going to work wherever I'm bringing them up. You do, as I mentioned earlier, you want to keep them a little bit longer than you might feel. Like, this is a little fast, okay? People are like, wait, what was that? I didn't get a chance to see it. You want to leave it up there long enough for them to see it. Maybe they're paying close attention to you. Maybe they're writing down a note. So you want it to be there so that they're like, oh, okay, great. Yeah, I was wondering what the mailing list one was. I thought it was just mailing list. It's, 2 words and it's only 1 word. Great, that helped. So leave it up there long enough. You'll get a feel for what works for you. I generally shoot for somewhere between 7 and 10 seconds. But, you'll have to test it yourself and see what works best for your audience. And then, of course, I can always make it go away faster when I want to, which is a nice piece of control to have. You do want to keep it simple and clear, right? You want to keep it as short as possible, unless you're going to go to something like a scroll. But if it's just going to be your lower third, whether it's 1, 2, or 3 tiers, you're not going to put as much content as you're seeing down here in the captions. Stay on brand, right? Make sure you're using your colors, your logos, your fonts, all that good stuff. That is an important thing to think about, right? If you're going to have a particular font representing you and your company, make sure that you can get one that you can use on screen. And make sure that your camera shot leaves enough room for them, right? So, for example, if on my camera shot I was way down here right? You really don't want your lower third coming across your face, right? So you want to make sure that there's enough room, right? And you want to factor that into how you're framing your shot so that it shows up well. So like, for example, this is not really, oops, let me bring this one up. So like for this shot, it's really not great for me to bring lower thirds up on, because in this particular one, I never get the right one. So right, there's a lot of bullets. So right now, if I bring up the lower third, it's actually going to hide some stuff. So I have to be aware of that when I'm doing this so that I don't hide content that I'm talking about. It's fine if I, if I'm in the bullets that are, oh, say it again. If I'm in the top bullets, it's okay. But if I was talking about the bottom ones, which I am right now, really not a good time to be putting my URL up. Make sense? Okay, sorry, let me try to be a pain. So let me make sure I take care of that for the boy. Okay, there you go, little boy. John seems to like when I got it across my face. I guess that could be a choice, right? So like when I'm bringing up, oh, now they came up with my name, not his. I'm sorry, John. I didn't give you credit for that. That actually means probably that my thing is not set up right. But evidently John likes it across my face. I guess I could put it right here if that would help you. Let me know. Reach out. Let me know if that's what you want. Okay, so let us keep going here. Let me fix this because it will bother me. All right. So yes, we've talked about all that stuff. Okay, so next up is how to display it, right? So we've talked about what, why, what to do with them. Now, technically, how do you do this? This is going to depend on your setup. So depending on whatever tool you're using, right? Some tools come with the capability to do this, others don't. There's really not, what's the word I'm thinking of? There's not like a third-party thing in general. I'm not aware of any third-party software that you could load that would let you add lower thirds to anything. Like, there's not like a magic thing that does it. So what you want to do is... Okay, well, at least I gave John credit now. Oh, now John wants me to put a fence up. Oh, you want me to be Wilson? You want me to do the Wilson thing from, what was that, Home Improvement, right? We could do that, I guess. Maybe that's something better for the Twitch hangouts than for this kind of a setup. But, it's certainly something to consider. So, yes, as far as how you technically do it. So the reason I can do it is because I'm using software called vMix. That is PC only. There is something called eCam for you folks who are on Mac. But really, you should get a PC. But anyway, I just did that for Susan, really. But so it's built into the vMix software. Now, if you're using, one of the browser tools, or if you're just using like, Facebook Live built-in software, I don't think right now, I know they played with it, but I don't think they actively have something that lets you do lower thirds right now. So that won't be an option for you. So you will have to look at your situation and see what the options are for you. If you can do it and you want to do it, creating the actual lower thirds, picking the font and putting the text in and all that kind of stuff. Here, let's do this one again. You can usually, if it's included in the software, there's usually a tool built into the software that lets you build these and customize them to a certain degree. If you want to go further than that, you can use a third-party tool, a third-party graphics tool. You can use Canva for that. You could use the Adobe tools, but don't buy Adobe tools just for that. You can use the Affinity tools for that. There's lots of stuff out there that will let you create graphics that you could use and then overlay the text on them, or you can actually build the text onto them depending on how you want to do it. You will have to you have to do a little bit research because you have to understand alpha channels so that it, covers up, the right way, but will work in your tool and all that kind of stuff. But it is certainly something you can do. The other thing you can do is you can buy them. There are people out there, I think Nerd or Die's got them, but if you just do a search for lower thirds, you'll find a bunch of companies that make them available. Also, if you're using a video editing tool like Premiere or Camtasia or whatever, there's a certain amount that come built in as part of the offering, but then you can usually go to the website. I know Camtasia for sure, you can go and buy an extra package. So there's lots of options if you're looking to do this kinds of stuff, and you don't have to be the creative person to do it. You can go to Fiverr or someplace like that and have somebody create them for you. So lots and lots of options. Once you've got the right software that will let you technically do it and you've got the art created, then you need a way to trigger them. Now, most of the software you can do it, like you can do it from the software, but if you're doing a one-person show like me, you're going to want to consider something like this. So over here, this section, these are the lower thirds that I bring up. And they're all just one button that I can click, and then they come up, and it's not a hassle. You can also use Steam Deck has got something like that. There's different ways you can do it. Or if you're lucky enough to have somebody producing your streams for you or hanging out while you're doing the streams, you can have them do it for you. You're just going to want to talk beforehand about, when you want them triggered, maybe give them a little high sign or something. I did this for several years with a friend of mine who wanted to do a live stream. We were never in the same room. She was pretty much anywhere. And I was able to bring her in remote, and we would talk about it beforehand, sometimes 2 seconds beforehand, sometimes a week beforehand, depending on what was going on. And with that, then I would bring up the comments or the lower thirds or whatever it is that she wanted brought up. I even brought up things like this for her. So I would bring up like the slide decks and that kind of thing. So there's lots of possibilities. But when it comes to the lower thirds, you totally can just have a button, right? That's one button for me. It brings it up. It will just, I've got it programmed so it will go away on its own. But if I want it to go away sooner, I just hit the button again and it goes away. So once you get the pieces in place, it's not hard. You just have to get used to using it. And to be honest, it's kind of fun playing with this stuff. But that may just be me. I know. It may not be something that everybody wants to play with. All right, so that is what I have for you tonight. Hopefully, this is something that has triggered some ideas for you. If you need help, you can always reach out at yourtechcoach.net. Use the contact form. If you want more information, just let me know what that information is. If you're looking for live production, I can help you. I've done it for live streams. I can do it for videos, and I've done it for webinars. So don't be shy if you are curious about this kind of thing, but you're not ready to do it alone yet, or maybe you're not set up. You don't have the software in place. The thing is, those don't have to be reasons not to do it. If you want to do it, there's usually a way to make it happen. You just have to do a little creative thinking about it. All right? Thank you all so much for coming and hanging out. I hope you're having a lovely week. For those of you who are interested, I will be on Twitch a little bit later tonight. So if you'd like to continue this conversation or take it a little farther, feel free to join us. I'm Your Tech Coach over on Twitch also. It's twitch.tv/Your Tech Coach. All right. I will talk to you next week. Hopefully you will get out there and play with your lower thirds. Bye.